This is the world-famous Brain Software Podcast coming to you from Toronto, Canada. Today, we're taking a brief break from our discussion on powerful communication techniques to interview a pair of living hypnotic legends, all the way from the UK, Anthony and Freddy Jacquin. So stay tuned for the best hypnosis and NLP podcast in the world, at least in our not-so-humble opinion.
Hey, Dad, this castle next to the graveyard is a pretty scary place. I know a lot of kids who'd be really frightened to be here, but I'm not scared at all. I think I've finally found my courage, and I wouldn't care if Dracula himself was here. I'm really ready for anything, Dad.
Whoa, take a time out from your self-aggrandizing pride fest, Abraham Van Helsing. Nobody likes a smartass, do they, son?
No, I guess not, Dad.
You guessed right, Anthony Hopkins, and stop waving that wooden stake around. This isn't a grain elevator, you know, and stop thinking you're more than you are. After all, you're still just Danny.
Yeah, I guess so, Dad. But even if we can't hunt vampires together, can I at least introduce Chris Thompson?
Of course you can, son. Not. A job that important requires a real professional. An ant-proof announcer from the Shizjig Corporation. And that's me. So, ladies and gentlemen, here's the 2IC of the hypnotic world epicenter, Chris Thompson.
Thank you, sir, and thanks for all these ant-proof muskmelons, too. Which really begs the question.
I just don't understand. Whatever happened to that old tranquility we used to know, Frodo?
These are days of victory!
Greetings, dear hypnotic friends. It's a great day here in Hypnoland. And welcome now, the man who's going to take it and make it even greater. A man who has finally broken free from Microsoft. A man who's made the move to Apple.
Hurrah!
A man who will never have to face that giant ball of duct tape again. That is the Windows operating system. Here he is, Mike Mandel.
Yes, Christopher, we are back with a vengeance. What a great day to be doing a podcast.
It is a fantastic day. So we are so excited because I think we said, I don't know if we said this on the podcast, but in our planning of the podcast, we said, you know what, this mini series on communication tips, we're probably going to want to interrupt it to do some interviews. And that's what we're doing today. We have the amazing Anthony Jacquin and his father, the lesser known but blows people away, Freddy Jacquin. And we have interviewed them both for this podcast. So we're just going to have a tremendous time. We're going to actually just paste in the two separate interviews. So first will be Anthony, then will be Freddy. They're going to both talk about their history in hypnosis, probably some personal stories in there about how we got to know them, how they came to train together, and
they're
the
coming
fact
to
that
Toronto.
They're coming to Toronto. So we will keep this promo part short, but check it out, MikeMandelHypnosis.com // Jacquin, Jacquin, and anything you want to say, Mike, before we cut over to the interview with Ant?
Not a damn thing, Chris. Not a damn thing.
All right. So in that case, here is the very first interview. It's about 20 minutes long, and it's with Anthony Jacquin, and then we'll come back and we'll do a little bit of roundup. Roundup. We'll do a little bit of a wrap up, I should say, and then we'll talk to Freddy in the Freddy interview, and then we'll end the podcast after that.
Take it away.
Here is the interview with Anthony Jacquin.
Chris and I have always wanted to study with the best, and we came up with this incredible plan about 1.5 years or 2 years ago. Instead of traveling around the world to learn from the best trainers, because we believe the best hypnotists in the world are continuously learning, we got this idea about bringing the best trainers in the world to Toronto, and then we can study with them, we can hang out with them, and we've had Melissa Tears in Toronto, James Tripp, Carl Smith, and now we've wanted to bring one of the fabulous Jacquins to Toronto, either Freddy the dad or Anthony the son. Guess what? We're bringing them both. Let's just go for it. So in light of that, we have Anthony Jacquin here on our podcast, and I just want to start off by saying, Anthony, I first heard of you, your name, when I saw your YouTube experiments in street hypnosis and all the amazing things you did, convincing the bartender you were Denzel Washington and so on. It's just phenomenal stuff. What on earth gave you that idea?
Well, hello guys, and thanks for the invitation to come out to Toronto and have a chat with you today. It was a TV production company. I was a pretty seasoned hypnotherapist by that point. I got into it, shortly after my dad got into it, went full time, and it just got busy straight away. And you probably heard this from a few people, but Derren Brown appeared on UK television. I had no interest in magic. I'd certainly never heard of anything called mentalism. So I believed everything he said in his first series. And there are a few spots in that series where I thought, I can kind of do that. I think I can stick someone's hand to the table. I think I can do this. So that was an excuse to an almost accidental sideways move into getting into magic and other ways of deceiving people and make things look like hypnosis. The only difference was I could do the hypnosis. Right. A TV production, we had an idea. We drop you in Trafalgar Square for a month. Can you survive? We actually did 2 days to prove the concept, not the full month, I'm afraid. But every single thing worked. And what you see on that video is really the first time I'd done that stuff. It was the first time.
You'd never think that.
That handshake in the bar, the Denzel Washington, is the first time I'd ever done the handshake induction, cold like that. And it worked, that my map expanded that day.
You just jumped into the deep end and everything started working. Just as a side note here, it's interesting what got you started with that. In November 1974, I saw the amazing Kreskin at Seneca College in Toronto in Minkler Auditorium. A friend of mine was a booking agent, and I said, I can do a lot of that stuff. He went, what? So January 29th, 1975, I jumped in the deep end. So we were both triggered by watching mentalism.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, obviously, they do both use suggestion. However they frame it, I'm quite happy for someone to stand there and say, hypnosis doesn't exist, as long as they can still demonstrate the phenomenon of, non-volitional experiences and all that kind of stuff, which Kreskin is entirely capable of, even though he appears to be debunking it. It's just a different point of view. It's just a more of a social, theoretical, philosophical viewpoint, and it's still entirely valid. But yeah, Kreskin is amazing. I've watched as much of his old material as I could gather, and he's a worker.
Yeah, his show was done in CJOH Ottawa for years, and then in Toronto. I saw him live about 4 times, and he's about 2,000 years old now, and he's still working like 5 gigs a week. He just cannot stop performing.
Okay, Anthony, I want to ask you a question. I want to jump in here and ask you a question. That is, a lot of our students have read your book, Reality is Plastic. I've read it. I've listened to the audiobook. I own it on Audible, and I highly recommend anyone listening get this book. Get it in the physical form, the Kindle form, the audio form, whatever you like. But what prompted you to write it, and what does that really mean, the title, Reality is Plastic? Great title.
Yeah, more prophetic than I intended at the time, but it's subsequently kind of shaped many of my ideas, not just about hypnosis, but kind of our personal reality generally, and our ability to change. So going into that hypno survival experience that Mike just referenced, we had all sorts of plans for kind of bar tricks and a bit of mentalism, a little mind read to kind of warm people up and get them there. And when it came to it, the very first one I did was where I stole the suit. And it was kind of magnetic fingers, magnetic hands, a handshake induction, and something associated with his arm drifting down, at which point I walked out. And over the course of those couple of days, that, and variations of the techniques, but that essentially became my approach. Once you get something working, you sort of stick with it. And as so I guess it was about a year later, we'd been doing a lot of street hypnosis, playing around with lots of different things, and it had become my approach, and it was the approach I was sharing with friends. And as soon as we started a training, that I just about completed my book. So it became an easy way to teach people hypnosis. You'll know in the book, I studiously sidestep committing to any theory. I just say, there's a sentence from Ellman and there's a sentence from Erickson. It doesn't really matter. It's interesting. Read about it when you want to, but you don't need to. You can just do this and you will get these results, especially if you do it with this kind of attitude and a bit of flexibility. And it's funny, again, it's after the Denzel stunt. I come out of the bar. If you looked at the clip again, you'll see I'm a bit flushed, a bit like I am now. But I'm kind of so buzzing from what I've just done. And I just say, his reality is entirely plastic. It just came out. And obviously we watched the footage back, and then it became a bit of a thing. I'd say now and again to an audience, seemed like a good title. But, I believe that. I think it's worse than that. I think it's an understatement. I think our personal reality is a fiction. And for the most part, it's being written, by other people and just, patterns of exchange out there. And it can be changed. We can challenge it. We know we can. We can change our state. We can change our beliefs. We can change our identity if we want to, and it be as real and have as much substance as what was there habitually and, prior to that. So, yeah, it just kind of stuck and became a thing.
Now, I'm in complete agreement with you on that. That's why I loved your book. And like you, I don't have any specific model of hypnosis. I just find the one that's useful. I mean, John Grinder said years ago that the test of a model is its usefulness. And it's just, if you want to think of trance, if that's a useful model, sure. If you want to do the James Tripp thing of hypnosis without trance, if the model is useful, who cares? But what I find interesting, and I wonder if you concur with this, is your video was so immensely popular and fascinating. And I think it's because, well, one of the reasons, apart from being damned entertaining, it's the fact that so many hypnotists, hypnotherapists are afraid to test their work and produce phenomena.
I'd hope that's changing, with kind of what's been in vogue for the last 10 or 15 years. I mean, I know prior to that, you had the NLP guys talking about some of that stuff in Transformations and Overdorf in Training Trances. Those two books were the biggest influence on my dad and I, that and Milton Erickson Patterns Volume 1. But the other two especially, because they encourage you to test with what are essentially basic phenomena that most people can do. I get it. I understand it isn't necessary in therapy, and there is this perceived risk that you could sort of damage the therapeutic outcome, possibility of getting that outcome if someone fails along the way. But if you know how to do it, you can present that stuff any way you wish. And even when things don't kind of happen, you can just take it as interesting and start something again. It's partly that, and it's partly, that training, I think, was just hypnosis training was stuck in a bit of a groove for many years on the hypnotherapy side, probably in the wake of them trying to distance themselves from stage hypnotists. They perhaps didn't want it to look like that. They got caught up in the relaxation model or frame, which is, just a suggestion. It's not a necessity. And, it's dampened their spirits ever since. But I'd hope to change that. Generally, when I teach hypnotherapists hypnosis, they can carry on with their therapy model, but it's now got a kind of beating heart, and there's some, highs and lows in the session and a bit of an experience to talk about at the end rather than has it worked. It's more like, what was that?
Yeah,
what happened? Right. That's what I'd want to hear.
The concept, if there was one thing, I don't know if you want to even call this a model, but in your book, Reality is Plastic, and in pretty much everything that you do, which is why I think it resonates so well with what we like, you talk about being the hypnotist. And to me, this is something that is true whether you're doing therapy, whether you're doing street hypnosis, stage hypnosis, whatever you're doing, you are just oozing confidence and congruence. And it's such an important concept. I hope you might talk a little bit more about that and how it applies to all of the different types of hypnosis that students want to do.
Yeah, be the hypnotist. Yeah, it's been like a heavy chain around my neck ever since that one. In that there's so many the hypnotists now that I've had to start calling myself a hypnotist again, just to stand out. But no, that was partly inspired by a comment in John Chase's book Deeper and Deeper. In there, he references it with regard to stage hypnosis, but actually from the moment, this is how I understood what he said anyway, from the moment you turn up at the place, before the gig, after the gig, you are representing, partly because you may be the only one they ever meet. So you may as well be it. And, obviously it will add to the ease with which you can do your work later on. I think I went a little further. And again, it's not that this is set in stone, because this can inspire people. It can also put them off because they think, I don't have the confidence, I don't have the flow, I don't have the presence and all that kind of stuff. What I would say first off is, this isn't a strict necessity. I've seen all sorts of people learn how to hypnotize, some very quiet, some come under the radar, some that you can develop your own style. That's fine. But whatever that style is, I think it's about congruence. It doesn't matter so much, even if the ideas you're presenting are pretty crazy, pretty out there. If you can do it congruently, if you can turn up, if you can shake the bones as intended, then you're likely to get an emotional response to that. So there's that. And also, it's one of the few games you can be in where the stuff you're going to learn as a beginner, like the first 3 chords, really are all you need. You can polish the other stuff, but it's kind of, they're there. They're a sentence away from being invisible. I know you don't know it yet, but they're locked up, they're stuck. It's game on right now. If you could find it within you to give another suggestion confidently and congruently at that point, you'd provoke something miraculous, something incredulous. And for that reason, there's no need to have the usual tiptoey approach of the beginner, like, I've been learning a bit of guitar. It's more like, no, hand me that thing. But
Yeah, I know the 3 chords. I'm a rock star.
Yeah, exactly. And you could be. The point is, if you're a rock star, you could do it with 3 chords. So just step up a little bit, realize that people are a bit nervous about it as much as they're excited. They don't have a clue as much as they're misguided, and they're intrigued. They're actually interested. You're the most interesting person they've met in ages, simply because you said you are a hypnotist. So there's all this stuff going on, and generally the public are looking for someone who is in charge of, their stuff at that particular point in time. Then they don't ask so many questions. Then they'll just crack on with the instructions and the games will begin. So there's many reasons for that. But I'm not encouraging people to think they are the best in the world or anything like that. They just need to be the best in the room.
Right. Be genuine, be an expert.
And be enthusiastic. I know we all are, because I've seen you guys working too. And I may have said that stuff 1,000 times, but it's a new one. It's like fishing. It's like, why are you still going? It's like, it's so what? Because it's fresh, this game.
Yes.
It's so difficult to put down once you learn how to hypnotize. And as I said, the basics are going to take you far. You can spend the rest of your life refining it and learning how to do I'm out of analogies, but something on the guitar that would be tough to do, or a flying kick or something. It's like, cool, that's great too, but get involved. This is going to make a difference to your life. It's going to make a difference to people around you. You don't need to be a hypnotherapist. You can still help people change. You don't need to be a stage hypnotist. You can still entertain and demonstrate with this stuff. It gives people the edge, personally and professionally, whatever else they're into. If I was a salesman giving a presentation, I was doing a trade show, this is going to feature. Hypnosis should be part of your life. If it's not, you're
missing out.
You're missing out. It's easy to grasp. It's wonderfully simple. That's part of the joy. No wonder it was kept so secret.
Fabulous. And one of the things I wanted to ask you before we wrap up, Anthony, is, your amazing dad is coming with you. I got to spend some time with him both in Britain and in Las Vegas, which was just great. I said we'd be the 2 fittest old geezers around the pool. And I loved his book, the Jacquin Power Lift. I've been showing people sometimes since I saw it in your book initially.
Yeah, we've been big fans of that for years.
Great thing. I use a lot of catalepsy anyway. But what can people expect who are coming to Toronto? And I think we just had someone sign up from San Diego the other day, is flying into Toronto to see you and your dad teach. What can people expect?
Well, we run a very practical training. We, do bits each. We both know each other's material very well. what my dad's going to be sharing are really the best of, his techniques for helping people change the way they think and feel and respond. Yes, we're hypnotherapists and normally do a session that lasts an hour, hour and a half, but we do a hell of a lot of stuff, in minutes. And we are advocates of more people using those kind of tools in their life and with the people around them.
Yes.
You don't need to be a hypnotherapist to ethically do this stuff because it's so light in its touch. It's so content free. So my dad always blows the room away, especially when people are kind of looking forward to seeing me. It's happened in a couple of places. It happened in Brazil. He's bringing his dad, oh God, another fight, what's happening? And obviously he just completely smashes it and can go for like 21 hours a day, no problem anyway, and get up and do it again. So he'll be showing you his arrow, his total perception management, his take on a lot of classic things. I listened to an interview with Mike some months back, and so much of what he said is, same sort of repertoire or drawing along from a lot of the same influences as my dad, and having that attitude of, a bit of this and a bit of that. And I think, thank you very much, Mr. Erickson. And thank you very much, Mr. Ellman, and not being too precious about that. Yeah, he does work very systematically. He's got his own system. It's made of tools that, if you've been into this for a few years, you may recognize a lot of them. But it's a cohesive thing. And it's a very, it's like a hypnotist's approach to change rather than at the top of the league being a therapist. Very good. From me, I'm going to teach you how to hypnotize with confidence anytime and anywhere. And I'll probably start rambling on about mad stuff at some point later on in the weekend that will make you question your very existence.
So what I'm taking away from all of this is, and I've seen both of you guys teach, and I love listening to you guys present, and I find it just fascinating. And you do have different styles, but they fit together so well. I get the impression that whether somebody's a complete beginner, they are just interested in this subject, they have no plans to be a professional hypnotherapist, but this is fascinating, they're going to get a lot of skills from you on how to be congruent, how to hypnotize anyone, anywhere. They're going to get a lot of skills from your father on how to do little bits of change work in a few minutes, whether you're just
and then we're going to fold and then we're going to fold it back into self-application, personal development.
Right.
In the light of what we know about hypnosis now, what is it to do self-hypnosis? My teachers confused me. One of them told me there's no such thing as self-hypnosis. It requires a hypnotist. And one told me everything is self-hypnosis. Again, like most things, you're going to find my dad and I come at this down the middle. Yeah. And our attitude is just begin. You're suggestible now. You're always suggestible. And in terms of, beginners and experienced, whether it's not just there's something for everybody in our training. I know for a fact if Mike spent a day in our workshop or a weekend in our workshop, he would still have an amazing time and go home with nuances that would shape, his thinking. And if you're a beginner, I assure you can come to our class and you will, get your skin in the game very quickly, because I don't believe in advanced techniques. I teach in English, and it's easy to learn, and there aren't even that many words involved. So, it is a class for everybody, but I would say hypnotherapists particularly benefit from our kind of training because, we've done 30,000 therapy sessions between us, but we wish to give people an experience of hypnosis within those sessions, as well as get the targeted change. And I find many hypnotherapists they just miss it on their first training, and they get a bit uptight about it after that. But it's easily remedied. It just takes a couple of days of fun. It
is going to be a lot of fun over the couple days that you are in Toronto.
We're going to hang out.
May 11th and 12th, 2019, Toronto, Canada. If you're listening to this and you want to sign up, head on over to MikeMandelHypnosis.com/Jacquin. And we've said in prior podcasts that if you can't spell Jacquin, you can't come. So learn Jacquin, and it's going to be an amazing experience. We are so looking forward to having the two of you in Toronto. Have you guys taught in Canada before?
Never been to Canada before.
Never. Oh, so we get to be the first to bring you to
the
Canada,
world, hypnotic world epicenter,
and for a class. So that's going to be fantastic. So we're going to. Well, this will be by the time everyone's listening to this, it's published, and we hope you have plenty of time to make your travel plans to come to Toronto and hang out with Freddy, Anthony, Mike and Chris, and everyone else in the class. Mike and I are going to be students in this class.
And loving it.
And it's going to be phenomenal. So thanks very much for the time. And hopefully we'll get to do this again with Freddy before the class goes live and get his perspective on it as well.
Excellent, man. Thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it. We're looking forward to hanging out with you. You and I are going to do some mentalism when the others aren't in the room. We share some cool stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So thanks again, and good night!
All right. I hope everybody enjoyed that
awesome
interview
stuff, buddy.
with Anthony Jacquin. We're really looking forward. This guy is a legend. I mean, who else do you know that has hypnotized somebody to think that he's Denzel Washington?
Well, I know lots of people who've done that sort of
you've
thing.
done stuff like
but
that.
what I love about Anthony's stuff is, here's a guy who took the challenge of living in the street for 30 days using hypnosis to pay for everything. I mean, just phenomenal guy.
Yeah.
But now we get to hear his dad.
And this is the cool part. So in the interview, I thought it was fun because Anthony said that, of course, people tend to know him better because of these YouTube videos and the street hypnosis stuff. And then they wonder, why are you... He just said this, so I'm not going to repeat it. But why are you bringing your dad? And then he blows them away because Freddy is freaking phenomenal.
He is.
And we got to know Freddy in Las Vegas and in London, and we're so thrilled to bring him to Toronto. So here is
part two.
Part two, the interview with Freddy Jacquin. Welcome to Freddy Jacquin. We are so glad to have you on the Brain Software podcast, Freddy. And this is part two. This is part two of the interview because last week, and we're putting these together in one interview episode for all of our listeners. We had Anthony, now we have Freddy, so we're going to talk about hypnosis with you for the next 15, 20 minutes and share some great stuff with our audience.
Trying to shut me up will be the hard thing to do.
Awesome.
Once I get going on this, I just keep talking. So yeah, great.
All right. So we are so looking forward to having you and your son, Anthony, come to Toronto to teach a weekend of hypnosis. How did you get started in hypnosis? How far back are we going here?
Back to probably the late 80s, late 1980s. And it was just, I've always been into fitness, as you can see.
Yeah.
I've always been into fitness and how good we could be physically. But I remember when Anthony was just a boy, he was maybe 11 or 12 years old. And he was sitting with his brother. He's got a brother that's 2 years older than him. And I remember saying to them both, physically, we can achieve quite a bit of things, but mentally, we're unlimited. And two people working together, which was, at the time I was meeting him and his brother, can achieve pretty much anything. And I remember saying that when he was just a boy. And so that thought, and I ended up coaching a boxing club and using the language that I use now in hypnosis without even knowing that I was doing it. While guys are having their hands bandaged, getting them focused on what they're going to do, picturing the last fight when they won, all those kind of things we do in hypnosis, what we call the future pace and anchoring. And then I traveled, I'd sold a business and I went to Florida and I was there for a while. And then I came back and I sort of didn't know what I was going to do next. And I saw this advert and I'd been interested in the mind and how good you could be mentally. And I saw this advert, it said successful hypnotherapy. And just out of curiosity, I thought I'll go and do the course. And it was a guy called Neil French. It was IAHA, the International Association of Hypnoanalysts. And I went and did this course, and without knocking the course, it was about analysis. And I didn't know any better. So the guy would say, look, you put someone on a couch, you hypnotize them, ask them what's in their mind, what, the next thing they're thinking about. And over a period of 12 weeks, and bear in mind, the course was called Successful Hypnotherapy. In other words, how to make a good living out of hypnotherapy. And I'll say this because it's absolutely true. So, no one can actually say it wasn't said. But he said the way you create a business, he said you take someone into hypnosis and you keep them in for 12 weeks. No matter whether they do it in the first week, you keep them in for 12 weeks. And at the end of and he said it's easy to do, because at the end of the session, all you say is, in a moment, I'm going to count to 10. On 8, your eyes will open. And on 10, you'll wait, you come back up, looking forward to our next session where we can continue. Well, you know, the guys in hypnosis, you've just suggested they're going to be looking forward to seeing you for next week.
Yeah.
And of course they are. And he would say, you know, at the end of 12 weeks, you're going to have to push the button because they won't want to leave. And, you know, it's I'm not saying it, but it's a pretty poor way to work as far as I'm concerned. And then I left that course after a week and I didn't know any better. I remember writing a letter to Anthony. He was in Paris at the time. He was just finished his university course. And I said, I feel like I've got this invisible cloak that no one can see, you know, an ability. And that's what it felt like, just your own language. But it was a terrible course, to be honest with you. And as I said, my way of thinking soon changed. I started studying Erickson, you know, reading about him, his way of working, and changed the way I work myself. But then I didn't intend to be a hypnotherapist. I just thought I'd do the course out of curiosity. Then my son, Dean, asked me if I could help him lose some weight. So I hypnotized him. Then someone else asked me if I could help them. And I thought, I absolutely love doing this. Why would I want to do anything else?
You know what?
So I just started.
I just want to quickly interrupt and say, when we met you in London in, I guess it was 2017, right? It was November 2017, the UK Hypnosis Convention. It was clear and so obvious that you still love doing this every single day, late into the night at the bar. It's wonderful to hang around with you and watch the energy that you still have after having done this for a very long time.
No, I missed all that because I was teaching or something, and I wasn't there for any of the things Freddy did. But I did see him in Las Vegas, which was amazing. Yeah, I'll just fast forward. You know, you talk, Freddy, about the 12-week thing, which is immensely effective in the sense of building dependency. But what's wonderful is that your work is so clean and so fast. When I saw you deal with a room full of people in Las Vegas and you were talking about the arrow technique, which you invented, and dealing with chronic pain that no longer serves a purpose beyond being a message. And it was the way you just jumped in the deep end and said, anybody in this room with chronic pain, stand up. Half the room stood up, which is why they were there. And you just went for it. And I think you eliminated all but 2 of them in that session. And the other 2 you worked with after the session until they were pain-free. Yeah. I think that was just phenomenal to me. Show your confidence in your abilities. I think that was great.
It's more a confidence or a belief in their ability.
Right.
You know, I know, and we'll come out to Toronto. We're going to teach people in that class how to use the arrow. So the technique does the work, if you like. Yes, we deliver it, and we might deliver it in different ways. You know, the idea of being confident and with intent and expectation, all those things that are important. But in reality, we've got people buying this product all around the world. People are using it all around the world and getting results. You know, I think a lot of people think, well, it's okay for you, Freddie, because you're confident and you've got this sort of way about you. That's not the way it is. The words and the expectation is what happens. And this technique, which you've learned and you know how to use, it's so simple. In fact, people think it's got to be more complex. You know, when I present it, I say to people, you know, this is a rapid technique, but the value of it does not lie in the speed you can do it. It just happens to be a powerful technique you can do quickly. Mm-hmm. You know, for me, I want everyone to learn it. I want teachers to learn it, mothers to learn it, fathers to learn it. You know, in England, I don't know what it's like in Toronto, but you know, medical doctors here, you know, practitioners, they might have 5 or 10 minutes with a patient, and they have thousands of patients, so it's always rushed. Now, if a doctor's giving their patient the maximum amount of painkillers, they can't give them any more, and they're still in pain. It's beyond me why they won't say, well, let's just try this technique. Yeah, it's going to take 5 minutes. You know, and you don't have to use the word hypnosis to use it. You can just say it's guided meditation, it's guided technique. Yeah, it's going to say, close your eyes and do this technique, and you've seen it. You know, when I first did it in London, presented it in London, Anthony said to me, Dad, what are you going to do? I said, well, I've got an idea what I'm going to do. I don't know where I'll do it yet, you know. I tend to work better on the hoof rather than practicing stuff and thinking what I'm going to say, because I just believe, I stand up, I believe I can speak, and I believe I can do this work, and I'm passionate about it, and I hope that comes over. When I said to the room in London, like I did in Las Vegas, I said, I was asking for demo subjects, and a girl put her hand up, and I brought her up and showed them the technique. Then another girl, but every time 6 or 7 hands went up. So I now had 10 minutes left. You know, the girl at the back's going, 10 minutes left to go.
Yeah, she's flashing in the morning. Yeah.
And I said to him when I put the last demo subject up, I said, look, I'm not letting anyone out of this room in pain. Which is a big statement. There was 130 people in that room, you know. So I saw this girl, and there was 10 minutes left. And I said, look, anyone who's in pain, whether it's physical, emotional, whether you call that pain anxiety, whether you call it stress, that's of no use to you, stand up. Thinking a dozen people stand up. A bit like Las Vegas, but even more so. There must have been 100 people in the room stood up.
Yeah, it was,
and I've got 10 minutes. 10 minutes left. So I said, because most of them are hypnotherapists and hypnotists, and I said, look, you know how to do this. Just go into trance. And 100 people went,
yeah,
standing up. So I ran the technique. Anthony's at the back like that. You know, like, what are you doing? You've had a really good presentation. Now you're going to mess it up. So anyway, I said and I ran the technique. And like in Las Vegas, I said at the end, open your eyes, said, if your pain's gone or it's been drastically reduced, sit down. All but 2 people sat down. Now I've got 5 minutes left. So I said, you two, come up. I ran the technique again, and their pain went. You know, it's just an amazing thing to do. And I'm now doing these things online. It's because I won't go into it in too much detail, but my mum was really ill, and she was in agony and suffering. And I ran a technique with her. And it's always, I don't know about you, but I always feel it's a bit awkward working with your family. Mm-hmm. They see you in a different way. You know, when someone meets me who's read about me or read my book, they have this sort of idea about it. But my mum, I'm still the kid in the scabby little trousers and, you know, and a runny nose. And so people see you in a different way. So she was in agony. So I'm going to run this technique. And I did the arrow, and I did what I call quantum healing, which we can discuss as we go along. And I'll run it when we come out to Toronto as well. So I ran this technique with her. And bear in mind, at that point in time, her body was swelling because her kidneys were in failure. And she could only move her left arm. I swear, that's what she could do. And she said to me, you know, I'm going to be here for a long time. And I honestly thought it might be the last time I saw her. She was so ill, and I hadn't seen her that ill. So I ran the technique. One of the young nurses came in and cleared a few pots and pans, and she came out of this sort of reverie she was in. And I stayed for a while, and then I left and I went home. And I lived like 300 miles away, so I had to drive back. Anyway, I get a call from her partner the next day to say she's out of bed. From her partner the next day to say showering on her own. And this was on the Sunday. By the Thursday, she's back in her apartment. And so, it's, you know, to use the word miraculous is a terrible, you know, in our world. But when you see things like that, it's as close to miraculous as you're going to see. And I made a decision there and then. I am never going to charge anyone personally. I'm not saying that anyone that does this work shouldn't do it, but me personally, I'm never going to charge anyone to help them out of physical pain. Mm-hmm. I made that decision there and then. But anyway, so now I've got this Zoom thing working and I'm into it. I put a thing out saying anyone that's in pain, I'm going to run these free seminars every month on the 11th. Just sign up. I don't want any money for it. Just sign up. Thinking maybe 10 or 12 people sign up. 160 people on that first seminar. And we ran the arrow technique. We had 20, 30 minutes together. And before I asked, because there's 2 things I symptom scale, as I've said to you before, fear and pain. And the reason I symptom scale those 2 things is because we can remember having pain, but we can't remember what it felt like.
Right, yes.
So I symptom scale. It's the only thing I do, because otherwise they come out of it and they can't remember having the fear. So I said to him on this seminar, I said, look, in the chat box, just put a number of where your pain is at the moment. And it was 8s and 6s and 5s and 9s. And when we ran it, I said, now, where's the pain gone now? On a scale of 1 to 10, Mark, where is it? 0, 0, 0, 0. It was absolutely amazing. You know, this is online with 160 people, you know, and so for me, I love this. And as I said, the arrow technique, which you're going to be teaching when we come to Toronto, is a wonderful tool.
Yeah, the Toronto class, let's speak briefly about that, just so those who are listening to this, who are considering the idea of coming out to Toronto, which is the May 11th and 12th weekend in Toronto, 2019. MikeMandelHypnosis.com/Jacquin, Jacquin is the URL to go to for that. So you and your son are going to cover quite a lot, and you've done a lot of Ericksonian style work. You've created a lot of your own interventions. You've also got a lot of direct style stuff in there, Elmanian blend, if you will.
An excellent book.
Yeah, and two amazing books. We've got Reality is Plastic from Anthony, and we've got Hypnotherapy from you. And I loved that book. I want to say right here, right now, for everyone listening, I like audiobooks, and I like listening to them when I'm working out or cleaning the house. And Mike likes physical books. And usually what I'll do is if I find a book that I love on audio, I buy the physical. So guess what's in my Amazon shopping basket right now? Physical copy of your book.
Let me just comment on the book for a second, Freddie. One of the things a great distinction I got from it was the breadth of the things you're bringing in. I think in a sense, you and I are both consummate generalists. We like all aspects of hypnosis, find it all fascinating, from Elman to Erickson and everybody in between. And what I loved in your book was the intervention you taught of saying goodbye to someone, and the train metaphor, the layers of metaphor. And I just read that and sat there quietly swearing, going, damn, I wish I'd come up with this.
It was awesome.
Well, I mean, I've just changed it. Well, I mean, Skype session or a Zoom sessions now with a lady that's weight loss, and her last partner, he was a personal trainer, and for the 7 years or whatever she was with him, it was constant. You can't eat that, you can't eat that, you can't eat that. And although she's moved on, she still has this thing about this guy. It's still a problem in her relationship now. So I just ran that train metaphor with her. And the first time I did it, I don't know. I like to have these ideas. I can tell stories.
Yes.
And I just thought any metaphorical way of giving this stuff back, all the hurt, pain, sadness, how can you do that? And it just occurred to me, I was running just a general sort of guided meditation thing. You're on the beach and you're walking on the beach and blah, blah, blah. And I said, now you're on a platform. I thought, just put those cases, and then the cases are all that rubbish. Give it back to them, say goodbye, and for me, I love that story. And, but there's others which we can run, given the time in Toronto. And as I said, you were saying earlier about me in London and Las Vegas, you will know from Anthony and I, when we're with you in Toronto, we are on. There is never, well, it's lunchtime, we're off, it's 5 o'clock, we're finished. If we're out having a drink with your students, if we're out having dinner with people, we're on it, and that's how it is. It's not just, we're doing it because we feel we're giving value for money. We do it anyway. And you were saying about us loving this thing that we do, hypnosis. And it became very clear to me a few years ago. I was at a family party, and my nephew, he was only 15 or so at the time, and I was telling him about hypnosis and I love what I do and everything. He said this, and it made it clear to me. He said, but you wouldn't do it if you won the lottery, would you?
Yes, you would. Knowing you would. Yeah.
I absolutely would do it. I might be doing it on a yacht somewhere, but I would still be doing hypnosis, because I can't ever see a time when
it's like it's at the level of identity.
Exactly.
I totally get that. Hypnosis is like breathing. It's just so much a part of your being, and so much a part of my being. I totally understand it, that you're a part of my being. You are your art, really. It's who you are.
Yeah, and it's
and I think once we do this in everything we do, like you do, like I do. And I'm running a presentation at this year's UK Hypnosis Convention, and it's everyday hypnosis for everybody. I want everyone to say, okay, well, look, you're sitting at an airport and someone's afraid of getting on that plane. What can I do in 3 or 4 minutes that can help that person? I'm with someone who's in pain. How can I help that person? How can anyone help that person? So that's what I'm looking for.
That's probably a good point to begin the wrap up here, which is, if people want to come to Toronto and study with you, study with Anthony, they're going to gain, in my opinion, and that's why Mike and I are bringing you two out. We want to learn this, your angle of things. I think anybody who is coming to this class or reading your book or buying your audiobook or whatever it is, taking your seminars online, coming to Las Vegas, coming to London, anybody who studies with you too is going to gather a bunch of amazing tools that work quickly. So it doesn't matter if they are hobbyists and maybe they're sales professionals and they want to help people get better at their job. Maybe they want to help their friends overcome past traumas. Maybe they want to start a business coaching people and do it as a career. Or maybe they're just curious and they don't know where the heck they're going to go. They're going to be armed with confidence and real skill. And they're going to walk away and know how to help people. And whether someone wants to turn that into a business or not, no question, they're going to have the capabilities. They're going to have the confidence. So that's why we come to Toronto.
Once you understand, as you do and we do, that influencing someone is easy when you understand the mechanics of it. For me, it's very simple. If I can create an emotion in you, I can influence you.
Yes.
And that can happen in an instant. If I get you thinking about your kids, I've made a spike of emotion in you. Yes. In that moment, I can suggest that you're going to feel better, or you're going to feel no pain. Last night, and I'll tell you quickly this quick story, I play poker. It's my one thing that I do on a Thursday night in my little town. It's only £5 and we get pie and chips thrown in. So it's not exactly like Las Vegas style.
Nice.
And there was a guy there last night and he found out I was a hypnotist because he's seen me for a few weeks. In my eyes, around my eyes, not in my eyes, just taking the mickey really. And then he sat at the thing and a real skeptic. And he said, you couldn't hypnotise me. I said, well, what do you want to do? He said, hypnotise me so I'm stoned. So I said, put your hands on the table. I said, look at your hands, look at me, look at your hands, look at me. I'm going to touch you on the head. Bosh. And we got it on film. I'll show you at some point. It was hilarious. He fell on the floor. He was laughing his head off for 5 minutes. And then nice. And he was like, all evening he's going, do it again. He became addicted. So what I'm saying is, once you get your head around this stuff, it's not difficult. And as I said, for me, I want everyone to be able to use it in some way, whether you're in sales, as you said. If you understand that, if I can influence, if I can make you laugh, I can suggest that my product's going to fit your product. So
right. I love that. Your presentation, I think you said that first in Vegas, the first time I'd seen you. I'm sure you've been saying it for a long time, but that idea that create an emotion, give a suggestion.
Yep.
Those two things just in that order, that is the simple formula. And that is what I think you guys bring to the table, making this stuff so simple, so easy to learn.
It's going to be exciting, and we're going to have a heck of a great time with you in Toronto, learning from you, hanging out with you, eating together, drinking together.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
We're going to have a lot of laughs. And for those of you listening, which is everybody, come to Toronto, May 11th and 12th, MikeMandelHypnosis.com/Jacquin. And thank you so much, Freddy, for coming on to talk about you.
Thanks for inviting me, and thanks for inviting me out to Canada. That's going to be one of my on my bucket list, and you've ticked it for me. So
awesome.
Thanks again for that.
All right.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
I know we had a great time together.
All right.
Absolutely.
And good night.
Excellent stuff, Chris. To be able to bring both of them to Toronto was amazing because it was going to be either or, and to get them both is just insanely amazing. When
we planned this and thought, could we get one of them? Well, what if we could get both of them? And it's happening, so we are really, really excited.
Now, nevertheless, I think we need to do an empowering question, so bring it on.
Yes, just because this is a non-standard podcast with an interview and we don't do that many doesn't mean we're going to deviate. So here is your empowering question for podcast episode 119. If you could get as close to a source of greatness as possible in any field of endeavor, who would you choose to learn from? And what's preventing you from doing it? What is stopping you from getting to the place that you need to be by learning from the best you can find?
Nice one, buddy. Nice one. And I have a Medify, which is actually came out of something that happened last night. And this is an interesting one. My mom and dad told me that when they survived the Battle of Britain and years of the Manchester Blitz, going to the air raid shelters every night, and then eventually getting so tired they didn't even get out of bed. My mom said she would rather die from a German bomb lying in her own bed than get up again. She was so exhausted. Oh. Like me, she didn't deal well with sleep disturbance.
So anyway, the air raid siren would go in Manchester. Everybody would frantically rush to the air raid shelter. And then after the bombs had come down, or the V1 or V2 rockets, then the all clear siren would go, which was entirely different. And everyone would breathe a sigh of relief. Well, you recall a few months back, sometime last year in Hawaii, the alert system, the emergency alert system on people's phones went off in Hawaii, saying that there was an incoming missile attack. Atomic bombs, that kind of thing. Yeah. So all their phones went off, said the same thing. Everybody ran for shelter, and then the government came on. Oh, sorry,
it was a mistake.
Accident. Yeah, because this alert system is for huge emergencies. Earthquakes, tornado coming your way, atomic war. Well, last night I went to bed early because I wake up with an alarm to make the trip from Hypno Central, the Hypnotic World Epicenter, to Hypno East, where we are now. It's about an hour drive. And I get up at about 6:30, which I don't enjoy doing. So I went to bed early so I'd be at my best today. I went to bed about 10:15, crashed out, fell asleep really fast, Egyptian Malcat, my wife in the bed with me. And then 11:30, woke up to this horrifying sound. I had my iPhone in the room because that's my alarm clock, and it was the emergency alert going off in the iPhone. And I jumped up, and I mean, it's a scary, you told me you heard it too.
Oh, yeah.
And I rushed across the room.
Everybody in Canada heard it.
Only thing I could read on the lock screen was the words, emergency alert. Bloody hell, atomic war. North Korea's launched. And so, frantically, turned the iPhone, I got it on, what was unlocked is the word I'm trying to say. And I couldn't find the message anywhere on my phone. It was gone. And I was wondering, should we be in the basement, doing duck and cover? My wife gets online and says, you can do this with your iPhone. You can see the message. I did. And it was a very sad situation. An 11-year-old girl abducted by her father, who she was estranged from. And the Peel Regional Police had sent this alarm because they wanted people to look for his car. She was in serious danger.
Which makes complete sense.
And then I went, I had a huge adrenaline dump in my system. Couldn't sleep. Gradually fell asleep again, only to be woken by the emergency alert signal again. Jumped out of bed, heart pounding with adrenaline.
About an hour later.
Said an hour later, it said the girl had been found. So I went to bed. And it was very sad. It turned out the girl was murdered. But the thing I don't understand in this is why couldn't they take the cue from Britain with the bombings and make the all clear signal sound different than the you are under atomic attack alarm? Because to get it twice, the same alarm, is counterintuitive.
Thanks everybody for listening to Brain Software, episode 119. This has been an interview with Anthony and Freddy Jacquin. Make sure that you get yourself to Toronto, Canada, May 11th and 12th, and experience an amazing weekend with the two boys, Anthony and Freddy. It's going to be wonderful. MikeMandelHypnosis.com/Jacquin, which is spelled Jacquin. Thanks again. And good night.
Oh, the year was 1778. How I wish I was in Bastard now. A letter of marque came from the king to the scummiest vessel I'd ever seen. God damn them all. I was told we'd cruise the seas for American gold. We'd fire no guns, we'd shed no tears. But I'm a broken man on a Halifax pier, the last of Bastard's privateers. Oh, Elsid Barrett cried the town, how I wish I was in Bastard now. You! For 20 brave men, all fishermen, who would make for him the Antelope's crew, God damn them all. I was told we'd cruise the seas for American gold, we'd fire no guns,
Shed no tears.
but I'm a broken man on a Halifax pier, the last of Bastard's privateers. Oh, the Antelope sloop was a sickening sight, how I wish I was in Bastard now. She listened to the board and her sails in rags, and the cook in the scuppers with the scuckers on the jacks. Damn them all! I was told we'd cruise the seas for American gold, we'd fire no guns, we shed no tears, but I'm a broken man on a Halifax pier, the last of the Bastard's privateers. Yes! That's even better.
I love that song.